Welcome into the PFF podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson, and we are going to be going through the entire NFL, giving our 2017 season predictions. We're going division by division, giving you our picks for division winners, playoff picks, wild cards, and even the Super Bowl. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about our friends over at playdraft.com. You can find them in the App Store. Just search Draft. They are our new best friends because we love playing their fantasy game. It's a best ball game. You draft your team, and then you just leave it for the entire season. You don't have to worry about waiver wire, trades, injuries. They'll take your best players every single week. Best part about playing Draft is you can win some real money. You can actually put up a little bit of money to win real prizes, and we have a special promo code for you. Once you make your first deposit at Draft, use the promo code PFF, and you'll get a free $3 game. Once you're in there, you can play $3 games, $10 games, even $100 games. And like I said, once your draft is done, you don't even have to keep up with your team. Games start every couple minutes, so you can have multiple teams. I'm going to have about 10 teams this season, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun with playdraft.com, so check it out. Promo code PFF when you make your first deposit. Even Sam over here is playing. How many teams you got in there now?
Well, it's all about my golf saga. I won the first round. I'm into the second round. I redrafted that yesterday, and that's going to take its way over this weekend. We'll see if I'm going to win money with the golf.
Should have mentioned that. It's not just NFL. You've got golf, you have baseball, you have basketball, hockey, whatever you want. I have to say, it's pretty addicting. So get over there, playdraft.com. Okay, guys, we're talking predictions right now. We went division by division already, so please check out the archive. We went into great detail on each division. We gave each episode had only 8 teams that we broke down. So go find your favorite team. Check that out in the archive. We went into great detail on each division. This one's going to be a little bit broader, a little bit bigger. We'll go division by division and just pick our winners, our predicted winners, mine and Sam's, and maybe a breakout player or two to keep an eye on. And we'll wrap it up with some Coach of the Year and Super Bowl predictions. So let's get right into it. We're going to start in the AFC East. This might be the easiest one to choose. So, Sam, give me your prediction for the AFC East winner here in 2017.
Well, let's just skip straight over this. We're both going with the Patriots. Everybody is going with the Patriots.
Let's explain why.
They're the prohibitive favorites for not just the division, but the Super Bowl. I mean, defending champions, best team on paper. If anything, they got better over the offseason. Edelman is a blow. There's no doubt about that. That definitely weakened them from a couple of weeks ago.
We had a little bit more detailed analysis on that in the preseason Week 3 review. Be sure to check that out.
But if nothing else, this division should not pose them any problems.
Right.
Whether the Edelman thing catches up to them in the playoffs or not is another matter. But the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, none of those teams should be even remotely up to contending against the Patriots.
Well, you have two teams essentially admitting they're in rebuilding mode. The Jets completely getting rid of all their veterans, big quarterback issues and question marks. The Bills getting rid of a bunch of their top players. And then the Miami Dolphins, who may have had a shot, not necessarily to compete, but maybe to make the playoffs again. They lose Ryan Tannehill, and they'll probably be the number 2 team in the division. So we're taking the Patriots. Give me a breakout player or two. Give me someone to watch in the AFC East that you think is going to become a much more household name by the end of the season.
We talked about him a bit before, but I think with Jay Cutler there in particular, Devontae Parker is primed for his big year. You know, we were big fans of him coming out as a draft prospect, and it hasn't really panned out yet. We've seen flashes of excellence from him over his career so far. But at least in limited sample size, Jay Cutler looks like he's prepared to give him a lot of opportunities this year. He's going to relentlessly throw that guy the ball,
right?
Even if it's just because he vaguely looks like Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall, you know, big-bodied receiver who looks like he can do some things after the catch. He's going to get plenty of chances. So that should be all he needs because he's a talented guy.
Hey, there's a tall receiver. Let's throw it up to him, and that is where Parker wins. He does win often at the catch point. I'm going to give another wide receiver named Zay Jones, second-round pick this past year for the Buffalo Bills. I know that, you know, Tyrod Taylor has had his struggles here in the preseason, and, you know, maybe Nathan Peterman ends up seeing some time. I just think Zay Jones, I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but I think he's going to be a name to watch this season. One of the top-graded receivers in all of college football last year at East Carolina.
Yeah, we're both big fans of Zay Jones.
You were noticing years ago when he was only known as Isaiah Jones.
Justin Hardy tape. Zay Jones was the guy jumping off.
That was back in 2014. We were checking out Hardy, and boom, Isaiah Jones really stood out. So keep an eye on him in Buffalo. All right, let's move to the AFC North. I don't know if this is a no-brainer again, but I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the division. Do you have? Are you going with the Steelers, or do you have another outside pick?
I'm going with the Steelers. I don't think it's not as no-brainer as the Patriots in the AFC East, but I think they're the best team in this division. The Browns are obviously not in contention to win it, though they should be better this year. The Bengals, that offensive line is just too bad for me to believe in them winning the division. And I just don't see enough talent on the Baltimore Ravens to be the team, but I think they'll run them the closest. So if for no other reason than, process of elimination, the Steelers should be the team to come out of that division.
I can't completely figure out what the Bengals are going to be this year because on one hand, and we've got into depth about it, in the AFC North broadcast, but, the offensive line, we know it's going to take a step back, but what they did in the draft and, bringing in guys like Joe Mixon, bringing in guys like John Ross, so they have playmakers that might be able to offset some of the offensive line woes. And then defensively, William Jackson's coming back off injury. Andrew Billings coming back off injury. Jordan Willis in the third round, who we absolutely loved. Carl Lawson. So on one hand, I think they should be, an average team at best. On the other hand, I wonder if these young guys could really step up. But I do think it's the Steelers' division. I think the Bengals might be the second best team in the division over Baltimore.
Ooh.
I still have some questions about Joe Flacco and what he can do with that team. And we talked about the Browns before. Tough to compete against them every single week this year is what I'm expecting. They're going to sneak some wins and be a very tough team to play. Any breakout players? Give me some names to watch in the NFC North.
My guy in the AFC North is William Jackson.
Did I say NFC?
One of us did.
Yeah, we're still in the AFC North.
I think you led me away. William Jackson, the Bengals' first-round pick from a year ago.
Oh, good one.
Tore his pectoral muscle, I think. Missed the entire season, injured. Is back now. Really limited sample size, but so far in preseason, he's been really good. I think he's allowed only one catch on 4 targets so far this preseason, and was a guy that I thought was a fantastic prospect coming out. I thought he was the best cornerback, pure corner prospect in that draft. Big, rangy, can run with guys, can mix it up, has ball skills. I think he could be a really great breakout candidate this year.
Talked to some people at Houston when he was coming out, and they agreed as far as the size, the athleticism, all of that stuff matched up. But they even said, he's got room to improve. He could be, technique-wise, room to improve as a press corner, as an off corner. So whether it's this year or next year, I think at some point he does become one of the better corners in the league. I'm going to go with the guy I mentioned earlier, Joe Mixon in Cincinnati. I think eventually he'll take over the bulk of the touches in Cincinnati.
Did you see what he did to Josh Norman this
week? I saw
week?
what he did to Josh Norman. Yeah, I mean, he's got the shiftiness. He's got a little bit of power. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I know you have to always say off-field aside with Joe Mixon because there was a lot of controversy there. But on the field, he's going to become the guy in Cincinnati. And, again, having guys like him and John Ross make me think maybe they can overcome some of the offensive line issues. Since we are including rookies in the breakout, have to mention Myles Garrett, the number 1 overall pick, looks every bit the part of a number 1 overall pick so far in the preseason, and that's more of the no-brainer breakout type of player. All right, let's go to the AFC South, which I think is on the upswing, in theory, until you kind of break it down and go team by team, and it's like, maybe it's not really on the upswing. I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. That seems to be everyone's darling in the AFC South, mostly because it's tough to get behind Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. Andrew Luck's a big question mark in Indianapolis. And Houston, great defense, but still question marks at QB there as well. Who are you going with in the AFC South?
Yeah, this was tough. I think Tennessee are definitely preseason darlings. There's a lot of people picking Tennessee. I can see why. I think they are on the upswing. Whether this division is as a whole, I think the Titans are heading in the right direction.
Maybe they're just carrying it, and that's what I'm thinking.
But I don't even think they're carrying it. I think they're definitely moving in the right direction, but I think they're still a fair way away at this point. I think that goes for Marcus Mariota as well. Everyone seems to be seeing him as now this almost finished product of this great young quarterback, and I think he's heading there, but he's not there yet. I think the Houston Texans are the team to beat in this division because that defense looks dominant. I am incredibly concerned about putting all my eggs in the basket of Tom Savage at quarterback. But we talked before, it shouldn't be a difficult job. That defense should be fantastic. They should have some semblance of a running game. They've got some receivers to play with. He shouldn't need to play that well. I mean, he kept the job in preseason because he didn't lose it. And that's basically going to be his task 16 weeks of the season. Just don't lose the game.
Right.
Anything you can do above that is a bonus. Just don't throw the ball away.
Perhaps even more concerning that they decided that their first-round rookie, Deshaun Watson, was not capable of being the don't lose it guy. And that's perhaps another story. They decided he wasn't ready.
But sometimes that's a style thing. It's
sure.
You're not capable of not losing it yet. We know you're going to throw a lot more positive throws than the other guy, but that's not what we need right now. We've got the defense, we've got the running game, we've got everything else. We don't need a guy that's boom or bust. We need the middle of the road. Yeah, we need the Alex Smith. So, I don't think it's necessarily a big knock against Deshaun Watson, though I think he clearly wasn't ready from what we saw.
Agreed.
But yeah, I'm concerned about hitching myself to the Tom Savage bandwagon, but I think he's the right style of quarterback to guide this team into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Zach Robinson and I got into detail on both Tom Savage and Marcus Mariota because we were talking about breakout quarterbacks on the QB Analysis podcast, which is also in the archive. And, again, everybody seems to just think, well, Mariota's the guy. Zach has pointed out some footwork issues. He's super athletic, but he's really not good outside the pocket. We've run down those numbers there, too. So I think there's more in there for Mariota, but certainly not there yet. But I am picking the Titans because we had them as the top-ranked offensive line in the league last year. Jack Conklin, outstanding rookie season at right tackle. Left tackle Taylor Lewan with a career year. The exotic smash-mouth scheme with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. And they've started to add more pieces on the defensive side of the ball. So I think the Titans are the team.
And weapons on the offense.
And weapon. Corey Davis. How did
Hall
I
of
forget
Famer.
Corey Davis? My pre-draft prediction that he was going to be a top 10 receptions guy, all-time receptions guy.
Yeah.
He's sitting at 0 right now, so we've got a long way to go. But, I'm on the Titans bandwagon in the AFC South. Give me some breakout players besides Corey Davis. That's just the obvious one.
Yeah.
On his way to the Hall of Fame. Give me some other AFC South breakout players for this year.
I'm staying in Tennessee, though. I'm flipping sides of the ball. I'm going for Kevin Byard, safety, second year now.
Yep.
Byard, everyone knows at this point my love for Malik Hooker, and his ability. I don't think Byard is Hooker or Earl Thomas, but he was the one guy coming out that year who you thought could play center field, single high safety, and actually get it done, as opposed to just be one of these guys that a team tries out at center field and then ends up moving him into the box because he isn't capable of doing that. I think Byard can play that deep-lying free safety role that teams need. He doesn't have the game-changing ability that Earl Thomas or Malik Hooker has, but he won't, he can operate within that role and not be a problem, which frankly in today's NFL is an achievement.
Look, after years of the NFL not producing good free safeties, and the first year we did college was 2014, and there was, little safety play. There just weren't good safeties for a while. Byard did stick out as a guy that could do that. Showed well against Alabama when he played for Middle Tennessee State. Made a great interception. Tracked down Kenyon Drake from behind. Yeah. Showing athleticism and everything. I'm with you on the Byard bandwagon. Mine might seem obvious with Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. We mentioned him as well on one of our preview pods. But I think he kind of takes that next step as one of the better corners in the NFL this season. Has the length, has the athleticism, can play zone, can play man. So I think Ramsey is that guy in the AFC South. Let's move to the AFC West. I think it might be, are we looking at the best division, the deepest division in all of football in the AFC West? I honestly think that all four teams have at least a case to win the division. I'm going to go with the Oakland Raiders, but honestly, if you gave me any other name, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll take the Raiders in the West.
I think it's definitely the best division in the AFC. I think there's one other division in the NFC that could rival it as the best in football. I agree with you. I think the Oakland Raiders are the team to beat in this division. I don't think it's as close as you seem to think. I don't really think the Broncos have a shot. I think that defense is not what it was. The offense is led by Trevor Siemian. I mean, that's curtains. And they're still, the tackles still seem like a disaster. So even if Trevor Siemian turns out to be dramatically better than he was a year ago, he's still got problems in terms of protection and the offensive line and that kind of thing. So
I have been on record as saying I do expect regression from Denver.
Yeah.
New defensive system plus the Simeon.
So I don't think Denver really have a shot at it. Kansas City, I think, do. San Diego, Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Chargers are a lot of people's darling, including Mike Renner.
He's got them winning the Super Bowl for the next
Probably,
5 years,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
But they've lost some pretty key weapons already to injury. And I don't think they're quite as good as the other teams. So I think it's between Kansas City and Oakland. I think people kind of forget how good the Raiders were last year. I mean, they really were the team that looked like they could challenge the Patriots in the AFC until they lost Derek Carr late in the season.
Right.
And at that point, your season's done. I mean, from that moment, literally, they might have just packed up and gone home because it was never going to be anything other than disappointment from them.
Matt McGloin taking over. Or Connor Cook taking over as well. It was not pretty.
But Derek Carr is now back, healthy. It was a break rather than anything soft tissue or ligament or anything that could linger long term. So he should be back to his best. If he takes even a step forward, in his development arc still, he could be phenomenal. He could be in he could be in that elite bracket that everyone tries to shoehorn quarterbacks into. The weapons are there. They've got Marshawn Lynch now, which beast mode looks back from the preseason. He doesn't look like sitting on a couch for a year has done him any harm. And the defense, I think, should be okay. So, yeah, the Raiders are, I think, of the team there, and I think they're a legitimate contender.
So that's your pick, the Raiders?
Yes.
Did you even mention the offensive line?
I tried to avoid it, no.
They're good, too.
Yeah.
Other than Marshall Newhouse?
Yes.
But 4 guys returning with over 80 grade last year, over an 80 grade, which is excellent. PFF overall grade, all a part of your PFF Edge package and Elite package, too. So be sure to check that out as well. But so we're both taking the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
There is a path for the Chiefs to win, though. I do think there's this, Alex Smith's going to keep them in games. Do they throw Patrick Mahomes in at some point to maybe take that next step? I do expect regression from the Broncos. And the Chargers, I know they've battled some injuries, but I think Rivers is still an excellent quarterback. The offensive line should be at least a little bit better. So added some playmakers on offense. And the defense now, guys like Joey Bosa, ready to become a superstar. You have Melvin Ingram on the other side. They actually have a pass rush. They've got players in the front 7. Jason Verrett at corner. They've got players. They have talent on defense, which you could not say a few years ago. So I'm expecting a deep division. But we're both taking the Raiders. Give me some breakout players from the West, 1 or 2 names that you're looking at.
This is kind of cheating because he's closer to the Hall of Fame than he is a no-name, but Marshawn Lynch is going to break out coming back from his year on the couch.
That really is cheating.
Yeah.
He'll be more productive than last year. You're really going out on a limb right there.
Much more productive than last year. Marshawn Lynch is going to hit the ground running and be like he never left.
I don't think you understand what a breakout player is.
He's going to break out.
All right.
Break out.
So you have Marshawn Lynch as a breakout player.
Yeah.
I wrote down multiple names because that's how much I love this division. Chris Jones, PFF favorite, who we think already was an excellent interior pass rusher last year, takes that next step this year. He's still pretty young as well. And then Hunter Henry in San Diego. Talked about it last week with Mike. If they give him a chance over Antonio Gates, man, that guy can be a very good tight end at all levels of the field.
He's going to get all the receptions right up until the touchdown needs to be scored.
I'm not saying fantasy breakout. I'm talking NFL player breakout. Hunter Henry. And, of course, Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa could take that next step to become a superstar.
Yeah, I mean, he's already broken out. So it doesn't count.
So we've both taken 2 guys that have already broken out. Good that we're on the same page there. All right, let's go to the NFC and start in the East with, I don't know, I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah.
I wrote down Dallas Cowboys, but that feels like I'm just going with what I saw last year. I don't know. I think they overachieved last year. I do have a tough time doubting Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott once Elliott gets back because they were so good last year. I do think that they'll continue that. They still have the offensive line, but there's a lot of turnover on that defensive side of the ball. What are your thoughts in the NFC East? I don't feel great about the Cowboys, even though I think a lot of people are calling them the slam dunk in this division.
Yeah, I don't think it's a slam dunk. I don't feel great about any of the teams in this division. I don't think it's going to be the best division in the NFC, let alone the league. But I do think it's going to be one of the tougher ones. I think any of these teams will be taking wins off the others. It's going to be a battle for somebody to come out of it. And every single year, I seem to get drawn into supporting the Eagles or predicting the Eagles to have success, and I'm going to do it again. I really like the look of that roster. I mean, we ranked that offensive line ridiculously highly heading into the season. On paper, it could be a fantastic unit with, Lane Johnson back from suspension at right tackle, arguably the best right tackle in the league. The other guys left to right, those 4 starters could all be extremely good. If Kelsey can get back to being somewhere near his best, right. Brandon Brooks at right guard is a really underrated guy, and Jason Peters a solid left tackle.
Yeah, at his best, he's one of the best left tackles in the NFL.
So that line could be really good. They've added some weapons at wide receiver, which was their single biggest problem. Who's the Alshon Jeffrey, and even. Why can't I think of names today? Torrey Smith as their deep threat guy. Torrey Smith is a very limited receiver, but
they've probably had the worst receivers in the NFL 2 straight years running now,
and
right?
Torrey Smith is a really limited guy, but he's really good in the one area that they actually needed. Alshon Jeffrey can be that down in, down out possession guy, if you like, but he's not really going to take the top off a defense. Torrey Smith, if nothing else, can do that. And really, that's all they need him for. They just need to send him out there and say, run, go routes all day. And we've got, the defense has to respect that. Even if he's not the best receiver in the world, you can't just let the guy run clean in behind your defense.
Oh, it does affect the defense. There is something to it. I talk about this with Deshaun Jackson all the time.
Exactly.
We'll talk about it more.
Jackson's a far better player than Torrey Smith is, but it's the same kind of idea.
Right.
You have to respect the really fast guy running directly past your defense, which is going to open up space for guys like Alshon Jeffrey, and more importantly, for Carson Wentz to actually operate in.
When we broke down the NFC East on that podcast, I feel like we talked about all 4 teams, other than the Eagles, as regression candidates. They all have something where it's like, can they repeat this? Can they have as much success as they did last year? And then the more we talked about the Eagles, I feel like I talked myself back into they're going to be a sleeper. They are going to be a team to watch. The way I described them, we always break down their roster, position by position, as really, really good. But they were weak last year in probably the 2 most important spots in the NFL these days, besides quarterback, receiver and corner. If you're weak in those spots, it honestly might not even matter what else you have. But like you said, they have Alshon Jeffrey. They just traded for Ronald Darby. I think just that puts them in much better position. So I'm on this Eagles wild card, competing bandwagon, maybe competing in the NFC East, and I'm still going to take the Cowboys, but I think the Eagles are going to surprise. Anything on the Giants or the Redskins? Like what is pushing you down or them down for you going into this year?
For the Giants, it's Eli Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that defense, though I'm a little bit concerned about whether it can repeat how good it was a year ago, because it was fantastic last season.
That's where I am. They were so good. And maybe a little, maybe they overachieved.
And I've spent all offseason being a little bit twitchy on these cornerbacks that had like career years last year. There seemed to be like half a dozen of them that had completely ridiculous seasons in terms of their career baseline. Janoris Jenkins is another one. Now, there is something to moving different schemes and playing a lot more man coverage and that kind of thing. So it's possible that was just a scheme thing, but it was such a departure from the the previous seasons we've seen him in that I'm just nervous about expecting it again. Landon Collins, I think, probably will have the same kind of season again, but there's a lot of guys on that defense that basically played to the best of their ability last season, and when you're expecting that to happen again, it's a bit of a risk. The offensive line, obviously, for them is a big question as well, along with Eli Manning.
Run game still an issue.
Yeah, so he's got weapons. I just don't know if he's going to play well enough to use them.
I think the weapons are going to be able to protect Eli enough. Different style guys, Brandon Marshall, of course, Odell Beckham. Sterling Shepard, when he's healthy, bring in Evan Ingram, first-round tight end. So I think the weapons will protect Eli. I do expect that defensive regression.
Manning, to me, is a guy who this year is going to have really quite good numbers, but is going to play terribly to get them. I think that
that's what I'm saying. The end result, though, is the most important thing when we're talking about how well will the team play.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think that will be a problem. Like it'll look okay on the stat sheet,
sure,
but it'll cost them games.
And that's a lot of what happened last year. He played some horrendous games that they actually won. With Washington, my big concern, Kirk Cousins having new playmakers, and I just think he's been fool's gold. I think he's been good, not great. And again, another guy we broke down in depth on the QB analysis pod with Zach Robinson. Breakout players, NFC East. Give me a name or two.
Well, obviously Derek Barnett.
Of course, we know Derek Barnett's going to break out.
Who you got?
He's going to join the Hall of Fame probably this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the Giants and say Paul Perkins, a guy that we liked quite a bit coming out at UCLA at running back. He's shifty. The offensive line we mentioned won't be great, but I think Perkins will be able to make do.
That's quite out there given what we've seen from him so far.
I understand. I'm still going based off that college evaluation. I think he bounces back.
Well, I've at least resisted putting Nelson Aguilar as my breakout
He's
player.
like my Nelson Aguilar. I'm still believing.
Damn it, I believed in Nelson.
Still believing
It's not happened yet.
Paul. Okay, let's go NFC North. And we'll circle back and talk about wild cards and playoffs and all that stuff. But NFC North, I'm taking the Packers. Is there any good reason why it should not be the Packers in the NFC North?
No, I don't think so. I think they're clearly the best team in this division, even though they've got flaws. And it's another one of those things where if you look at nothing else, they've got Aaron Rodgers, nobody else does. Therefore, they win the division.
Yeah, there's not much more analysis that we can do on that one. Okay, so we're both taking the Packers. Who's the next best team in the division? If somebody does surprise, who could compete with the Packers? Now, don't forget, last year it was Packers and Lions.
Yeah, how did
down
that
to the last day.
That's crazy.
To win the NFC North.
That's not happening again. Lions fans, this is your time to enjoy the PFF Hate the Lions segment.
This is 12 straight podcasts that we have trashed the Lions.
Yeah, so the Lions aren't going to be the second best team. If a team's going to surprise, I think it's going to be the Chicago Bears. That interior offensive line is fantastic. Arguably the best interior in the league. The tackles, if they're just okay, that's a top, 7 offensive line.
And they just re-signed left tackle Charles Leno, who was just okay last year.
Exactly, yeah.
And we always keep talking about just average play is pretty
valuable. So if those guys
now.
are just okay, that's a top 7 offensive line in the NFL with a top 5 running back, top 3 running back in Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Glennon, I think, would be the issue. If they can find a way to move on from Mike Glennon quickly in the season, put Trubisky out there and just see what happens, because he looks good.
How difficult is that? You just hey, Mitch.
I know.
You're starting.
But they've got the kind of coaching staff that I think is a little bit hard-headed when it comes to that kind of stuff. The idea is Glennon's going to get this season, to see what he can do. I don't know if it's like a sort of honor thing. We brought him in. We're going to give him this year to prove whatever, and Trubisky's next year. Or if it's just a case of this is the plan, we're not messing with it because, of a preseason game here or there because the hype train's on Trubisky now. Whatever it is, I don't think John Fox wants to do that. So something dramatic would need to happen for him to change his mind early enough in the season for it to make a difference. But I do think the Bears are moving in the right direction. That defense has added some players. They're moving away from being one of the worst defenses in the NFL to actually being a reasonable unit. So I think the Chicago Bears have the talent to challenge if that quarterback change gets made early enough.
Yeah, they weren't as bad as they showed last year. Really beat up with injuries. I think much like we talked about the Chargers and Bears defenses as recently as 2 years ago were maybe the 2 worst in the entire NFL, and they've both added a lot more pieces the last couple of years. So I'm expecting a bit of an upswing for the Bears. Anything on the Vikings? Do you think early in the season they looked like one of the best defenses in the NFL, and then they dropped off?
Yeah, I think as almost across the board, that team has just gotten a little bit worse. I think they did make big moves last year with the Teddy Bridgewater injury. I don't think they panicked. They made the only move they could have made. They thought they were a Super Bowl contending team. They made the big trade to get in Sam Bradford, who at least gave them a shot of continuing.
Looked good early on.
Yeah, and the idea was that he was at least capable of continuing a challenge, which was fair. They didn't fall off last season because Sam Bradford wasn't good enough. They fell off because the defense fell away. The offensive line was one of the worst in the entire league. They've addressed things, but they're just not as good overall. I think they'll have a couple of players that are better than last year. I'm excited to see what Donnell Hunter can do as a full-time starter. Dalvin Cook, I think, has the potential to have a phenomenal rookie season, but just top to bottom, that roster doesn't look quite good enough to contend.
And just so I could sum up what happened with the Lions, I think last year a lot of close wins that might not go their way this year. I think the defense still has major question marks. They did last year as well, and I just don't see the Lions duplicating their win total. Breakout players, NFC North.
Hunter's the obvious one. Whether, I don't know if...
But he had 13 sacks last year. He already broke out.
He did, but he wasn't as good as the sack. This is what concerns me about Hunter, is that the potential is amazing. He's still only 23 or 22 or something ridiculous.
He's an excellent run defender too.
Yes, and so he's been amazing in limited sample size against the run, and he's had sack numbers, which makes people think that he's been a phenomenal pass rusher. He hasn't been as good as the sack numbers, and it just concerns me that you put him as a full-time starter and you kind of project this step forward. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think you might end up seeing, like a 10-sack season from him, and if that matches the pressure
but more
total,
pressure.
Maybe more pressure, but maybe even not. Maybe the same rate of pressure. He ends up as a really good run defender, ends up as a reasonable pass rusher, but doesn't become the amazing player that he's flirted with being, between the sack numbers and the youth and the dominance that he's had in limited snaps. It concerns me that he's not going to become as good as everyone expects him to.
Either way, you're expecting more snaps for him this year. 601 snaps last year was pretty solid. I could see that step forward as well. I'm going to go with Leonard Floyd, another edge defender. Missed a lot of his rookie season just as he seemed like he was ready to break out. Another guy that we liked coming out, and I think he could do a lot on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going with Leonard Floyd.
Matthew Stafford's new contract, he got a $50 million signing bonus. Can you even imagine writing your name on a piece of paper and somebody handing you a $50 million check?
Yeah, my next contract is up shortly. I'm going to talk to Neil about it, maybe, Big Boss Chris, and see if we can work that out.
I think that seems reasonable. Are we going to have a signing ceremony for that?
Oh, yeah. We'll do a hat ceremony. It's going to be, am I going to stick with PFF, go to ESPN, NFL? We'll see. Zach and I did discuss the Stafford contract in the archive as well. Before we move on to the last two divisions, want to tell you about our friends over at DraftKings.com. Football season is less than 1 week away, and there's no better way to get closer to the game you love than with DraftKings 1 week fantasy football. To celebrate, DraftKings is actually hosting a $100,000 contest that is totally free to enter. Not only can you win that $100,000 of prizes, but you can also win $1 billion if you draft the perfect lineup. So many different ways to play over at DraftKings, between public contests with big cash prizes, or you can do a private contest with a group of friends. There are beginner and casual contests all the way up to the more expert type plays that a lot of the PFF fantasy guys are so good at. The best part is you get to draft a new team each week without any commitment. So get to DraftKings.com now and use the promo code PFF to play in DraftKings' free Week 1 contest with $100,000 in prizes on the line, as well as a potential $1 billion if you draft the perfect lineup. That's right, $1 billion. Just use the promo code PFF. The contest is totally free to enter, so why not try? Compete against Sam and I. We've already entered our teams. I'm expecting to win that $1 billion. DraftKings is the game inside the game. Eligibility restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. That's promo code PFF. All right, two more divisions to run through in the NFC. We've got the NFC South. Is this the division you were going to say is the deepest?
This is my division that I think has a chance to be the best division in the entire league. I like what every one of these teams did in the offseason. Potential is there for all of them, I think, to be really good. I think just by law of how this stuff works, one of them, two of them maybe won't. And
they'll beat each other up though, which will, the perception will change.
They'll definitely beat each other up, and because of that, nobody's going to have the 13-win season that you expect from a really good division.
Right.
But I just think that one of these teams, two of these teams, maybe won't be as good as they look on paper, or they have the potential to be going into the season. So it might not end up actually being the strongest division in the league. But I think all four of these teams could be very good this season.
I'm with you there.
And I find it really tough to actually pick the winner of this division. Atlanta, the NFC champions last year, was 28-3 in the Super Bowl. We're like,
you brought it up this time.
Yeah, I did.
Why did you have to bring it up?
They were like one play for the entire half away from winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
One play for an extended peried of time, not just one play.
They had many opportunities to make one play.
Exactly.
Super Bowl
any of which would have won them a Super Bowl. So this is that close to being the Super Bowl champions. Didn't get dramatically worse in the offseason. The biggest losses they had were on the coaching side of things, with offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan heading across to San Francisco. So they should be good. The New Orleans Saints, I think, had the best draft of any team in the league. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers maybe had the best offseason of any team in the league when you factor in free agency with Deshaun Jackson and guys like that coming over.
And where they had those additions for their needs and everything.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers, should get Cam Newton back healthy. They've added some really, really fascinating weapons for Cam Newton to play with on the offensive side of the ball in McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel. So you've got one team that should be very good, and the three teams that weren't got a lot better.
All that now, who are you picking? Before I give you mine.
I wrote down the New Orleans Saints.
No, I wrote down the Saints.
Really?
You copying my paper here?
I wasn't. And I don't even know why I did it, but I'm trying to rethink my justification in my own head. Drew Brees is still very good.
Yes.
He's been held back by a very bad defense for a very long time. Marshawn Lattimore looks like he could be a stud at cornerback, and admittedly he would need to be.
Yes, he would.
But they have added a lot of talent to that defense. Cameron Jordan is still one of the best edge rushers in the league. Sheldon Rankins was a guy we didn't really see last year. We didn't see the real Sheldon Rankins because of the injury. If we get the real guy this year, it's a similar kind of proposition to, the William Jackson edition for Cincinnati. It's this legitimate elite talent that you're getting really for the first time this year.
Right, and they need.
Yeah,
They
need a lot to fall into place for this to be accurate. But
maybe that's why I picked them. I'm just assuming all of this stuff. I'm going out on a limb saying all of these things are going to fall into place.
Yeah.
Which is mostly on the defensive side of the ball.
But I think the same thing is kind of true for the other teams. For Carolina, you need those offensive weapons to gel. You need Cam Newton to get back to the guy he was when he was an MVP caliber season.
True.
For Tampa Bay, you need all those new additions to fit. You need Deshaun Jackson to gel with Jameis Winston. You need Jameis Winston to actually put it together for an extended period of time that you seem to think is inevitable one of these days.
It is.
So there's a lot of question marks for all these teams. And even with Atlanta, it's the coaching side. It's how much are they going to regress losing Kyle Shanahan, and how much is Matt Ryan naturally going to take a step backwards after having arguably a career year last season. How much they move backwards towards the pack. So with there being question marks for all of them, I'm going with New Orleans.
Of course, we're going with New Orleans, going with the best quarterback in the division, Drew Brees. And I know the Falcons have MVP, Matt Ryan, but another guy, you already mentioned it. There's got to be there's natural regression coming off 119 passer rating and over 9 yards per attempt. Losing Kyle Shanahan is going to be a factor there, and just the fact that he had a lot of help from his playmakers last year to put up those numbers. So I think we're both going out on a limb to say the Saints. The other thing I'm looking at, in addition to Drew Brees, I think they're one of the few teams that really does need to run the ball more, and showed at times last year if they focus on the run, that's a better strategy than just relying on Drew Brees. He just was playing with no margin of error.
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson, is he going to be the guy? If there's a guy in his 30s at running back that can come back and be a freak, it feels like him, right?
Yeah.
Now you combine him with Mark Ingram, I think they can rely on the run and take some pressure off Brees.
He is a real X factor on that offense. Even years ago when they were legitimately contending as opposed to just in the mix every single season, they were at their best when they had that stable of running backs that they could deploy. They rotated between Pierre Thomas and Darren Sproles.
Alvin Kamara's there too.
Exactly, yeah. So they have a backfield now that looks a lot more like those teams when they had this stable in the backfield.
Right.
And they were, for a couple of years, they were one of the best running teams in the NFL in terms of...
Yeah, they just spread the wealth.
Yeah, exactly, in terms
guys.
of total rushing and yards per attempt and all that kind of thing. So this season's Saints could look a lot more like those teams, which was the best offenses they were able to deploy. And then it's just a case of, can the defense be good enough to not lose them games?
I think there's something to it. It's usually bad analysis to rely on old running backs.
Yes.
But I think Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson, Lynch missing a year, or resting for a year, essentially.
Yeah.
And Peterson just kind of being that freak athlete. I think these might be the two guys that you can...
The exceptions.
They could buck the trend maybe a little bit. So, breakout players in the NFC South for you?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't have a great selection of breakout players. McCaffrey feels like the easy one because I've been on that McCaffrey bandwagon basically since it was founded. Right. But I've said before when we were doing the Rookie of the Year stuff, I'm concerned about how much he's going to get used, and whether he's going to see the ball enough to really have that big season. Who have you got?
Did James Bradbury already break out last year as a rookie?
I mean, given some of the people we've had on this list, I think he qualifies.
Okay, so James Bradbury, I think he exceeded my expectations for sure.
Yeah.
Wore the number 24, replaced Josh Norman, plays really well in that zone heavy scheme. I'm going to go with Marshawn Lattimore, though, too, who you mentioned. He was their first-round pick. When he's healthy, man, he can do it all at corner. I think he was one of the better corner prospects we've seen over the last couple of years. And, that's the fun part about predicting this stuff. You never really know how much a rookie's going to contribute. But when you get that exceptional rookie contribution, that's kind of what takes teams from one level to the next. And if we're predicting the Saints to win the division, they're going to need guys like Marshawn Lattimore to be a breakout player, so I will take him as my guy. All right, let's go to the NFC West, the last division. Who will challenge the Seahawks in the NFC West?
Nobody.
So you're taking the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Is there who's the second best team in the NFC West? Has to be the Cardinals?
I guess it does, but I think it's a relatively significant jump from Seattle to anybody else. I think in the past they've had some challengers. The Cardinals, I've said before that I just don't see them getting back to that level. I think that was lightning in a bottle for one season, and they're just not going to get back there. So I think it's Seattle by a relative distance, even though their offensive line remains bad. And then it's a mess. It's Arizona, it's the Rams, it's the 49ers, and I don't think there's going to be a huge amount to separate those teams. I think the 49ers will be sneakily better than people expect them to be, but not good. So I think those teams are probably all in that 5 to 7 win bracket, and then the Seahawks walk away with it.
Maybe it's just the nature of where the rosters are coming from, but just like we talked about the Browns being a competitive team, I think both the Rams and 49ers will be a tough out every single week. I don't know that they're going to win more than 5 or 6 games, but a tough out every single week with the Rams bringing in Sean McVay. Jared Goff should be better this year. They've got that intriguing group of playmakers. Wade Phillips taking over the defense for Greg Williams. I feel like you've got another really good defensive coordinator there. And the Niners, they're going to get that first half of the year of Brian Hoyer, keeping them in games. They're going to be 4-3 at some point, and people are going to be like, "Hey, Hoyer's the guy." The Niners will be a lot more competitive this season. I'm with you taking the Seahawks, but I wouldn't write off the Cardinals as like this afterthought. I don't think it's crazy to think that Carson Palmer could have another big year.
Really?
He could have another good year. Second half of last year, he was excellent. He started off terrible. Second half of last year, he was very good. I'm not saying he's going to be 2015 MVP Carson Palmer, but I'm looking at the Cardinals more from the lens. Maybe I'm just intrigued by their versatility on the defensive side of the ball, adding Budda Baker, who's like a Tyrann Mathieu clone, adding Hassan Reddick in the middle. The fact that they have just all these versatile playmakers, okay, they're going to be fun to watch on defense. I don't know if that translates to a great defense, but they're at least going to be fun to watch, and they'll compete, at least in the NFC West. It's the Seahawks division, though.
Didn't they just name Justin Bethel as a starter at cornerback again?
It's perhaps an issue.
Yes.
That was their biggest question mark this offseason that they needed to answer. Number 2 corner, because you have Peterson, who locks up number 1s and has been really good the last couple of years. The number 2 spot in Arizona has been horrendous.
Bethel's problem is that they call defense differently to how they call playing vice on special teams.
Right.
If he was allowed to press people the way he presses gunners on punt teams, he'd be fine. Nobody would ever get off the line of scrimmage. But unfortunately, on defense, they call that illegal contact or holding or some form of penalty, and he gets flagged.
The best vice in the game, Justin Bethel. Gordon McGinnis is proud that we got some special teams talk in here. All right, let's discuss the playoffs. We're talking AFC and NFC. Let's circle back to the AFC and talk wild cards. We did our division winners. Give me your 2 AFC wildcard teams. We'll then do NFC wildcards, and then we'll talk Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it makes sense given the teams that we talked about before. I have Oakland winning the AFC West, and I have Houston winning the AFC South. So my 2 wildcards are coming out of those divisions with Kansas City and Tennessee.
Kansas City and Tennessee. Okay, a couple good picks. Tennessee I picked to win the AFC South. I'm going a little crazy here. It might not make sense. It might not work out on paper that I'm taking both wildcard teams from the AFC West. But the Chiefs and the Chargers. I guess that leaves the Texans out in the cold, but I'm going to take 2 AFC West teams because I do think it's such a deep division. Raiders win the division. Chiefs and Chargers both make the wild card.
That also leaves the Broncos winning like 2 games.
It does. We're going in hard on this Broncos regression.
That's quite the regression. From a minute ago, you were saying that you wouldn't be surprised with any of the 4 teams winning that division.
I kind of lied. The Broncos were not a team.
Now Denver are barely getting a win.
Well, maybe the Broncos are the 4th best, or the number 3 wild card team.
Yeah.
Maybe they just win every non-division game.
So this division goes like 16-0 against the rest of the league.
I may have done the same thing in the NFC. Give me your NFC wild card selections.
So again, fairly logical. Actually, no. I don't know why I hated on Atlanta this year, but I'm taking Carolina to be the wild card team.
You have the Falcons not even making the playoffs.
Apparently. And then Dallas coming out of the NFC East for that wild card spot.
Because you took the Eagles. Okay, so NFC South, we've been raving about that division, and I think there might be a way that the Falcons and the Bucks are the 2 NFC
I can buy that.
teams.
I can buy that. Certainly, actually, now that I look at it, more than my Carolina and Dallas pick, because I really not sure why.
You legit forgot about the Falcons.
It does look like that. I can't really. I mean, I think they're primed for a regression. I'm just not sure they're going to get leaped by 2 teams in their division.
Well, you can't go back on it. So
no, it's locked in now.
All right, Super Bowl pick. What do you got, Sam?
All right, so we can't have the Patriots. It's too easy. Everyone's picking the Patriots. We're not allowed to pick the Patriots. It's too much of a slam dunk.
Do we have audio for last year's Super Bowl pick for you?
Look, so it was the same deal. Everyone's picking the Patriots. It's too easy. You can't choose the Patriots. So last year, I was thinking, what would be what's the most likely long shot that could pay off? Where if 6 months down the line, your long shot looks good, you look like a genius. I picked the Buffalo Bills. It turns out that was a longer shot than...
And we all forget it.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But if you hit... Genius.
Exactly. If you hit, it's genius. So it turns out that was a longer shot than I gave it credit for. Didn't really pan out. I'm going a little bit closer to the pack this time. I'm not straying quite so far from the herd. But if you're not going with the Patriots, I think the Oakland Raiders have the best shot to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I think they were the team last year that could have challenged them, but for Derek Carr's injury. You put him back in the lineup, you add Marshawn Lynch. I think the Raiders could be a Super Bowl team.
My issue with the Raiders is the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
Because the teams that have slowed the Patriots in the playoffs through the years have been defense-first teams.
Mm-hmm.
So their top competition in the AFC, the Steelers, the Raiders, even whether we talk the Titans, those teams I don't think have the defenses. The Texans probably have the defense to give them issues.
And they also need to figure out how to beat the Chiefs.
And the Chiefs, the Texans and the Chiefs probably have the best shot of slowing down the Patriots in the playoffs. But both of those teams might not even make the playoffs.
No.
Because of other issues.
But I don't even think, I mean, I'm more concerned about teams that can slow the Raiders down than whether the Raiders can slow the Patriots down. I think the Raiders can go toe-to-toe with the Patriots in a shootout and win.
The Raiders are your team.
I just don't know if they can go toe-to-toe against a team with an elite defense and shut them down.
So who are the Raiders beating in the Super Bowl? Are they beating someone in the Super Bowl or just making it?
Oh, I'm sure they're beating somebody in the Super Bowl. I just haven't calculated who that's going to be. You want a Super Bowl a team from the NFC?
I'll give you my AFC team to give you some time.
Do that, yeah.
I will take the Patriots. I will not go out on a massive limb. I've picked I think I've picked this.
Oh, this is just your team. So you're picking someone else to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl? No, I'm telling you can't have New England. That's too easy.
Why can't I?
Because they're almost odds-on favorites. Let's just take it as read that everybody is picking the Patriots. You need to pick a different team.
I've picked the same Super Bowl for the last 7 years. Why would I change?
Because it's
Patriots-Packers every single year.
It's too easy. Unless you have the Packers winning the Super Bowl, you can't have the Patriots in there.
Fine. I'll take the Steelers getting to the Super Bowl in the AFC.
There we go. So I think that the Oakland Raiders are going to beat the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Raiders over Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Okay, so my NFC pick then, I'll stick with the Packers. Am I allowed to do that? For the 7th straight year, I picked
Yeah, it's tradition
the
at
Packers.
this point. Why not?
And now that I know that the Steelers are in the Super Bowl,
yes.
Packers over Steelers, like it's 2010.
Second ring for Aaron Rodgers.
Second ring for Aaron Rodgers.
Now we can call him elite.
Oh, God, he's quite elite. He did have that 2 bad games last year, and we were ready to crucify him. But
with just one ring, you could never,
can't be good with just one ring.
Barely qualifies.
I have to say, though, he should win more. He should be winning more
games
than he has.
Generally?
Not so much games, but, fourth quarter stuff. There's like a little something missing there compared to some of the other elite guys through the years. So you're taking Raiders over Seahawks. I'll take Packers over Steelers. I'm really picking the Patriots.
Not allowed.
We're really all picking the Patriots. That'll do it for us today on the PFF podcast. Let us know what you think.
Coach of the year. Who's your coach of the year?
Okay, one last thing we have to do is coach of the year. Who's going to be the coach of the year? For me, it is Dirk Cutter because I picked Tampa Bay to make the playoffs. Dirk Cutter helps piece that whole team together, and he is your coach of the year. Who you got, Sam?
Oakland, Jack Del Rio,
well, that's
coach
obvious.
of the year.
Sam likes to just latch onto one team. He's going all out this year.
If the Oakland Raiders win the Super Bowl, Jack Del Rio is coach of the year.
It's a regular season award. So.
All right, if they go like 14-2 and roll into the playoffs, Jack Del Rio is still winning coach of the year.
All right, Jack Del Rio is your pick for coach of the year. I'll take Dirk Cutter in Tampa Bay. We want to know what you guys think of our predictions. Hit us up on Twitter. He's at PFF_Sam. I am at PFF_Steve. Let us know what you guys think. We're having a lot of fun with this. Stick with us all season here on the PFF podcast. Don't forget about the 2 new PFF products, Edge and Elite. You can get Edge for free if you sign up for new accounts over at FanDuel or at DraftKings. You can go to profootballfocus.com/DraftKings17 or profootballfocus.com/FanDuel17. Sign up for that new account. Make your first deposit. You will get PFF Edge for free. That is our $40 product. That's going to help you guys win on FanDuel or DraftKings and in your fantasy league. And then you can get PFF Elite for free, $200 value. All you have to do is leave us a 5-star review. We will pick one lucky winner every single week. Leave your Twitter handle or an email address so we can get in touch with you. That's PFF Elite, $200 value. Our Elite members, we treat them, that's like the first class of PFF. They can do whatever they want. They've got their own Facebook group.
Feet on the table.
Whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
We can. If you guys are in Cincinnati and you're a PFF Elite member, we'll probably just let you hang out in the office, meet Chris Collinsworth. I do suggest you guys grab the PFF Elite membership, $200 value. You've got a chance to win it for free with a 5-star review on iTunes.
That's Steve's invitation, not mine, by the way. Let's just make that clear.
Sam will show you around the office. He'll show you the audio studio. We'll let you sit in his desk, maybe stand on it, whatever you want. PFF Elite members can do.
I'm just saying, when guys rock up and they're looking to see the boss, it's you're the guy that I invited them here.
I'm not putting our address out there, but like I said, Elite members, you guys can do whatever you want for the most part. Thanks again to everyone for listening. We'll be back soon with a little review heading into the 2017 season, roster recap, and then it's go time. Football's right around the corner. Thanks for listening, guys.